edition of the Break Up Live podcast. I don't know if Brad's there or not. I
think so.
You think you're there?
I don't know. All I see is a black screen. There you go. You figured it out finally.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. So we're back. You know what? We've got a lot to talk about this week, and so much stuff has happened over just since the last time we were on, Brad. It's amazing how this thing works, right?
Yeah, we've got some new countries within our own country, and there's been shootings already in those countries. There's been some devastation. We've got the COVID-19. COVID-19 is going to kill us all again. It was, and then it wasn't, and then now it is. It's
making a great comeback. You know, you talked about. Oh, you've got it already. You've already got it.
Nope. I'm asymptomatic.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Something like that. So,
yes. So there was a shooting in Chaz, I guess. And so they went down and they wanted to, the police would have liked to have gone in there and they would have liked to have brought an ambulance with them. But the ambulance was like, we ain't going in without the cops. And the cops wasn't allowed in. So, did that guy die or what? The one that was shot?
As far as I know, he died. And in Albuquerque, New Mexico, they're already saying that when it comes to the police, they're not going to allow the police to police. So they're going to send in social workers.
Social worker. Yeah. If it's a domestic, because that's what you want, Brad. You want a social worker to go to a domestic violence call. And that's what Albuquerque is saying. They're going to go ahead and send in the social workers because they're trained to take that knife out of that dude's hand when he's fixing to slice her throat. You know, they're the ones I want.
Immediately when I saw that on social media, there was a social worker that said, you know what we do when we're called to go to a scene? The very first thing we do?
Call the police.
Call the police.
Yeah, no doubt.
They're like, we're not going in without the cops. What are you, crazy?
Well, who wants to do, these folks aren't trained. And then, so what are they going to do? Are they going to make these social workers go get self-defense training and all of that kind of stuff? Because you're not just going to, the social workers that I've seen, Brad, are usually these, these ladies or whatever that are going in and taking a look at this. They're not equipped to fight a 200-pound man. That's not the case. That's not even being anyway. That's just the truth.
Well, but the assumption is that you don't have to go in to fight, Curtis. It's the police that are causing the violence.
Oh yeah, because when the guy's beating the crap out of the girl and she calls for help, he's just gonna stop.
Yeah, because if a social worker arrives, they're gonna be like, "Oh, if the police were here, I would have attacked. But since it's you, we're all good." I just.
Did you bring cookies? Everything's good. Let's have some milk and hang out.
Maybe that's it. Bring cookies, Curtis. You've figured this out.
Hey, you know what? I don't just sit behind this microphone. I think a lot, Brad. And so that's part of it. I want, COVID-19. COVID-19's making the big comeback. It's in the news, all the headlines, and it's saying stuff like 100 and some thousand new cases.
120,000 deaths is what we've surpassed now.
Oh yeah, and it's just everywhere. The states are going crazy because now that the protests really aren't even winding down. But one of the things I want you guys to do, if you've got a minute, and I thought this was kind of crazy, and it just kind of shows you manipulation, I would think, Brad, but. You can take any 3 digits, go to Google, take any 3-digit number, right? Anything, 3 digits, type it in your 3 digits and say current cases. That's all. Don't say COVID. Don't say anything like that. 3 digits and current cases. And check out all the news headlines. You're going to get tons of them with your exact number from every kind of media outlet that there is talking about what you just typed in.
Yeah, they'll narrow it down to a city and a state, and then follow that by, you're all going to die.
Oh, Brad, I got to tell you, David Doremus, remember him? Our Jack Daniels rep way back in it. Black Dave.
Yes.
Remember Black Dave? Yeah, he's on right now. He's watching us right now live. Black Dave.
Yeah, and are you wearing your mask? Make sure. Oh, I forgot. Where's my mask? I'm scared, Curtis.
So we've got.
I want to be on this mic without a mask.
So when COVID comes back, COVID's coming back. We're hearing we're hearing that some of these states are wanting to do more lockdowns. They're wanting to start to shut the things down again in some of the liberal states. And why would that be, Brad? Why do you think that's happening?
Well, because there's an election coming up, Curtis. And so, and did you know, we've mentioned this before on the radio show. Did you know that every 2 years we have a new type of pandemic? Every 2 years. And it's when we're electing Congress, then when we're electing the president, every 2 years, not on the odd years, just on the years where we're electing somebody.
Well, it takes a while for those pandemics and those viruses to cultivate, Brad, I would say. It takes a couple of years for them. It just so happens
Just
that
so happens
yeah,
that
it's
it
one of
works out
those.
like this.
It's kind of it's kind of one of those things. So when coronavirus comes back, how long do you expect the lockdowns to last when they reinstate them? And they're going to. They're going to.
Till the end of the first week of November is what I'm thinking.
I'm thinking that's an adequate time. I really am. It gives everybody a chance. The thing to flatten again, right? It's going to take a few months.
I love that part. Is the whole point of the lockdown was like, okay, we're going to devastate the economy. We're going to wipe out people that have saved and worked their butts off to start small businesses. Because we got to flatten the curve, everybody. Flatten the curve. There's been zero curve. There's been nothing. We flattened the hell out of that curve. And now we're going to lock it down again, as if we can totally avoid flu viruses and cold viruses and the COVID. But you can't. The objective was to try to flatten the curve. And if we'd have just protected the elderly and let all of us get sick and get over it, then we actually can stop this thing. But that's not the case, Curtis.
Yeah, you know what, David, Black Dave, he just came on and he said in the comments, he said, it's amazing, that to think that a civil movement upstaged COVID-19 overnight. And he's right.
I mean, you had like a month before, you had them arresting in Long Beach a guy that was out on a paddleboard by himself. They were arresting that guy. And then 1 month later, perfectly okay to have protests, riots, looting. That's fine. And doctors even signed on board going, no, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say this, folks. We call David Black Dave, and there's a reason behind it. He actually came up with the name. So I'm not being racist when I call him Black Dave. We were on the radio show. We had two Daves. And there was a white Dave and a black Dave. And we're like, we've got to change one of y'all's names. And David Doremus came up with his own name. And he'll tell you right here in the comments if you're watching this stuff. We're not being racist because I can already hear it now. We get a lot of mail. So before you send it, don't, because it's not going to matter, right?
And then Curtis, remember when you'd see those kids at the grocery store and they're screaming and they're pulling stuff off the shelves and the parents aren't doing anything about them? And we were like, God help us when they grow up. Well, now we've seen the people who have grown up. They're the ones out there right now freaking out over statues and you name it. Everything is offensive now, Curtis.
I have to say, now that we're sitting here and we're tearing down the statues and everything, like you said, is racist. I'm hearing that they want to take George Washington's picture off of Mount Rushmore. They want to get that gone. They want to do that kind of stuff now. And I was sitting here thinking about CrackerJacks and saltine crackers.
Oh my God! I can't believe you said that. I'm offended.
I know, and Peckerwood, Brad. I mean, we can't overlook Peckerwood because that is how many times in your life have you been called a Peckerwood?
At least 3.
At least 3 times. Yeah. I mean,
No, folks, really. We looked up, we're like, what are the ethnic slurs for white people? And no joke, Peckerwood is in the list.
Peckerwood was there. I sit there. We were like, all right, well, we know there's crackers. We'll use crackers. And then I was like, I really can't think of anything else. And so we went to Wikipedia and looked it up.
And Peckerwood. And what is they've got Merkin. I don't care. I don't care.
Dude, David, we got to get you. Maybe next week we're gonna have you come on because I would love to get your I would love to get your opinion on some of this stuff, and see what you think about what's going on. It's these statues. One of the things that's really aggravating me about these statues too is they're tearing down statues. They're tearing down statues that they don't even know, like, what they're tearing down, who they are, what they represented. And regardless of that, do we really need to tear all of our history out, good or bad? I mean, that's what built our country, right?
Now, along that lines, uh, did I say this before about the statue in Vegas when I went into Mandalay Bay when it first opened, Curtis?
I don't
Did I
think
talk
you
about
did.
that? So anyway,
I
so I can understand where people get where they're like, I don't want to see it. Like I don't want to see that statue because it represents whatever. But we didn't hear that previously, right? You didn't hear that till recently that people started freaking out. But the statue in Mandalay Bay, there was a restaurant called Red Square, and it was a like 25-foot statue of Lenin, Communist Party Lenin, Vladimir Lenin. And I walk in, I was like, that kind of sucks. I can't believe they've got a statue of Lenin. But no joke, 1 week later at Mandalay Bay, they had chopped his head off and put bird poop on the statue. Fake bird poop.
Really?
Because I guess enough people said the same thing like me, where I was like, I don't really like Lenin. But the Lenin statue in the middle of Portland in Portland, Oregon. It's still up, Curtis.
I want to know, when you start looking you start looking at Uncle Ben's and you start looking at Aunt Jemima and things like that. Now these companies are coming out and they're going to rebrand. They're going to come in, they're going to rebrand their products. They're going to get away from it. Some of the pictures on this stuff, some of the families, I believe, from like Aunt Jemima is like, no, you know what? Don't take her off. We don't want to do that. But they're doing it anyway. I mean, it's kind of going over the top now. I don't look at a Aunt Jemima box and think about anything like that. I look at it and I'm thinking, this is when things really started to change for the country. I mean, you started to see different races come up and all of that.
Well, and honestly, I, as a child, and even up till probably last Tuesday, I thought Aunt Jemima invented the stuff. And Uncle Ben's, I was like, isn't it his rice company? The hell are you mad at Uncle Ben for? I had no idea. I don't know the history of it. I guarantee the people that want to get rid of it had no idea either.
Yeah, and Adam brings up a good point. We're reading the comments as they come up, but KFC. What are you going to do about Colonel Sanders? He looks
damn,
like
they got a damn plantation guy.
Plantation guy, yeah. And their commercials even right now is making fun of that kind of stuff. They've got I forget the actor that's doing it, Norm or whatever. He plays.
Oh, that's right, Norm Macdonald. They've done a few different things, and I'm like, isn't he dressed in like the plantation, owner clothing? The antebellum clothing. I just, it's crazy.
It is, and now they're hot on the Washington Redskins again. They're hot on the Redskins again, and so they want them to change the name. And I wanted to ask our listeners, as you're going through this, in the comments, you can put what you would like to see the Washington Redskins new name. What do you like them to change their name to, I think?
Well, I wish I had time to pull that up. I made a new helmet logo for them, and it had like Pelosi and Schumer and all of that in the helmet. And here's the name. Let's see if you go with it. The Washington Assholes.
But that's offensive to the players, who are now all going to kneel, Brad. Right? They're all saying they're going to kneel. The NFL is going all back to that. Goodell has come out and he said, he totally supports it. Now Brett Favre has come out and said that he thinks Kaepernick is going to be.
He said he's a hero like Pat Tillman.
Like Pat Tillman, yeah. So Pat Tillman, for those of you that don't know, he quit. I think he played for the Cardinals, right? He quit the Cardinals.
Cardinals, yeah.
To join the military and go fight for our country back after 9/11. He was killed, and he left his $1 million contract, his multi-million-dollar contract, to go fight for our country. And they're talking about Kaepernick being as big of a hero as Pat Tillman, which I think I can't believe Brett Favre actually said that, number one, but I can't believe anybody would even think that.
Well, I just wish people would understand the very beginning of all of that is Kaepernick walked away from his contract. Like, he had a contract. He didn't not get a job. He quit his job, and he got into the militant style that he's in now by going out with a girl that is a militant Muslim radio host in California that was currently dating one of his teammates. So he actually went out with her when she was still dating one of his teammates, which to me is kind of a character issue to begin with.
There's guy code when you do that, Brad.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah, you can't go out with your friend's girl while I mean, if you fall out with your buddy, I guess maybe, but down the road. But I would think that there's got to be a window of time before you hook up with your friend's
like
girl.
When they're still dating, that's probably the wrong time.
When they're still, when they were just telling you about the movie they watched last weekend together, probably not a good time to do it unless you're just an ass. And right. I think, Kaepernick is kind of that, I think. So, yeah, but now, according to Brett Favre, he's a hero, the same as Pat Tillman, which I think is pathetic, like I said a while ago.
But still, and then here's the other thing that still irritates me is, what are you kneeling for? Like, they seem to think that he's proven himself right because of what has happened. But do we have any proof that Derek Chauvin did it based on racism? Any?
I no.
We don't. All we have is the assumption that it happened like that. And then this Rashard Brooks that got shot in the Wendy's parking lot. I'm like, again, you're saying it's racist simply because the cop was white and the perpetrator was black. But the perpetrator, and guess what? This guy apparently was out of jail because of COVID, is the latest that I've heard, which is just sad. And I've also heard people go, well, they were talking to him and they could have just let him go. Could have just let him take off. I'm like, well, you're supposed to be arrested for driving drunk. So is that going to be the new thing? If you take off running, you just get to go, Curtis?
Do you think, honest to God, any of us that are listening to this right now, and I don't care what color you are, let's just talk about it where in our area, let's say New Mexico, in the Midwest, whatever. If you pass out in a fast food drive-through line and you're asleep and the restaurant calls the police to come and check you out, and you're drunk, asleep in the drive-through line, and you get out, and I got to give it to the guy though, man. He handed it to those two cops for a little while. I couldn't believe they couldn't control him with 2-on-1, yeah. But I mean, he takes the taser, he gets out of it, he takes off running, and I have been around those tasers because I worked around law enforcement for a while, and I wasn't in law enforcement, but I worked around it for a while. Those tasers sound like a gun when they go off. I mean, they pop like a gun. He didn't take the officer that shot him. It wasn't his taser that he took. He took his partner's taser. Right.
So he turned and aimed a gun at him.
As far as he knows. And when you hear that pop, and it's loud. I mean, if you see one of those type of tasers, they're loud. You know what? I mean, I wouldn't expect if I was passed out in the drive-thru and they pulled me out and I whipped on two cops and took off running and turned around and shot at them with a taser, and it popped like a gun and they shot me, nobody would say anything about it. Right. Nobody would even think anything about it.
Well, and then you had some like Joe Biden going, well, you got to shoot him in the leg. This isn't TV. You're not watching Lethal Weapon. He's not going to be able to draw a smiley face on the target at, 100 yards. And so what I did is I posted on Facebook and I said, here, take a look at this, folks. And it's the guy that's coming at the cop, and the cop keeps backing away. And he's like, please, please, please stop. Please stop, please. And for like a minute, he's backing away. And the guy then starts running for the cop, and the cop unloads his entire magazine into the guy. And the guy keeps coming, and he actually starts hacking away with a knife on the cop, because now the cop has no more bullets. He's put them all in this guy. And then the other cop shoots him and finally is able to get the guy down. The cop barely survived. But the point is, you can't shoot to wound. You can't gamble that you're going to be the expert marksman that, shoots his leg and he falls down. It just doesn't happen that way in real life, folks. But beyond that, Curtis, when cops deal with criminals, it's violent.
Well,
it isn't nice.
And let me tell you, the police officers that I know, and I know quite a few, I've known quite a few. Some of my best friends, one of my best friends was an officer. And nobody, no officer wants to start the day and go in and shoot somebody. That's not what they want to do.
No.
They're not going in there for that purpose. And if it happens, I know that they don't, I'm sure they feel awful about it. So it's
I guess some people don't think so.
That's what
they want to do. They don't.
Yeah, this whole narrative is nonsense. It's nonsense. And so now they've got this officer. What did they get him on? Like some kind of capital murder charge. I know if he's convicted, they're looking at the death penalty. I don't see how on earth he's going to be convicted, though. I just don't.
Well, that's the thing. They put him on like a first-degree murder charge. And first-degree murder means that you plotted in advance of the situation to kill somebody. Well, clearly he didn't do that. And so there's no way you get that charge.
And the DA, this is something else that really bothers me is the DA there in Atlanta 2 weeks before, he was talking about when an officer used a taser, he gave a big old speech and a big old press conference about these tasers are deadly weapons.
Deadly weapons.
They're deadly weapons. I mean, he went on TV and he talked about these tasers being deadly weapons and the cops don't need to use them and yada, 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 yada. So then 2 weeks later, this cat turns around and shoots the taser at the officer. The officer kills him. Now the same DA, it's like 10 days later, same DA gets on TV. Now the taser's not a deadly weapon.
And he shouldn't have shot him.
And it's just the hypocrisy of all of this. There's been over 900 officers hurt during all of this stuff. These protests, these peaceful protests, Brad, that you hear about all the time. Over 900. Some of them are on life support now for the rest of their lives.
Now,
some of them are dead.
Check this out, Curtis. North Korea is threatening a sensational event to end America.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, North Korea's back. And it's one of those is a sensational event, they're saying. So
God, it's a sensational event in America.
Yeah, who knows? Hey, Brad, so I want to go to I want to get a little lighthearted. Let's go to the joke of the week. What do you think?
I suppose we could do that. An old man in Mississippi.
Well, you gotta wait.
Oh, you got the joke of the week. Oh,
you
check it
gotta
out.
wait. I've got this new, yeah.
What Curtis did.
Dude. How cool is that, right? How cool is that? Go for it.
Curtis got fun stuff for you guys.
Yeah.
Do it. An old man in Mississippi was sitting on his front porch watching the sunrise. He sees the neighbor's kid walk by carrying something big under his arm. He yells out, "Hey, boy, what you got there?" Boy yells back, "Roll a chicken wire." Old man says, "What you gonna do with that?" Boy says, "Gonna catch me some chickens." Old man yells, "You damn fool. You can't catch chickens with chicken wire." Boy just laughs and keeps walking. That evening at sunset, the boy comes walking by, and to the old man's surprise, he is dragging behind him the chicken wire with about 30 chickens caught in it. Same time next morning, the old man is out watching the sunrise, and he sees the boy walking by carrying something kind of round in his hand. Old man yells out, "Hey, boy, what you got there?" Boy yells back, "Roll the duct tape." Old man says, "What you gonna do with that?" Boy says back, "Gonna catch me some ducks." Old man yells back, "You damn fool, you can't catch ducks with duct tape." And boy just laughs and keeps on walking. That night around sunset, the boy walks by coming home, and to the old man's amazement, he is trailing behind him the unrolled roll of duct tape with about 35 ducks caught in it. Same time next morning, the old man sees the boy walking by carrying what looks like a long reed with some fuzzy stuff on the end. Old man says, "Hey, boy, what you got there?" Boy says, "It's a pussy willow." Old man says, "Hold on, wait up, I'll get my hat."
Oh, that was bad. That was bad.
Funny. I like that one.
So, okay, they gave us some new stuff. Check this out. I'm going to show this in the stream. I'm going to go to solo. You ready for this?
Okay.
You ready for this?
Uh-huh.
We ain't bull pooping you. We ain't bull. Yeah, it's one of those things, Brad. It's one of those things. They want us to do all of this cool stuff, and I don't really know how to do it all yet. But we're getting there. We're gonna be there soon. And we ain't bull pooping you. What's the topic this week?
The topic is the Supreme Court. Curtis, did you hear about what the Supreme Court did?
I did, man. It's
so basically the Supreme Court had a case where Trump has basically said the executive order from Obama, which put in the DACA or the Dreamers Act to basically let people just stay here even though they're illegal. Trump had said, no, you can't just do that. That's not the law. So then I'll do my own executive order. The Supreme Court said, no, sorry, your executive order can't supersede his executive order, which makes no sense.
Makes no sense. That's the whole thing about executive orders. When you're president and you write as many executive orders as you want, you can make whatever executive order you want to make. The next president, usually what happens, the next president comes in and they say, okay, here's an executive order to do away with all those other executive orders, unless they're okay. I mean, they'll leave the ones that are good or whatnot. But the current president can do that. He totally has the authority to do that. Except for now. Yeah.
And prior to the Obama administration, though, what executive orders were typically used for is like George W. Bush. He gave federal workers their annual 3% raise on like January 1st because Congress didn't get to it till January 8th. Like that's what a previous executive order was. And then under Obama, it was, we're just going to let all these people in here for free. I don't know. And Congress even had a vote on the DREAM Act, and it failed Congress under the Obama administration. And then he went, don't care, DREAM Act for everybody.
Folks, I got to tell you, look at this magazine right here. This is the Born to Ride magazine, and they are a sponsor of the Cranked Up live podcast show. And this is a great magazine. You can go to borntoride.com. You can subscribe to this thing. And I was going to have a really cool commercial to play for this, but instead I've just got the magazine, and that is great, Brad. I'm looking through the magazine.
I would like to see a girl on there again.
It's got some great articles. It's got lots of things in it. borntoride.com. Go check them out. And what a great magazine. And we're proud to have them on as sponsors of the Cranked Up Live podcast. And there's going to be many more. We've got Cook Customs as well. They build custom motorcycles. And I know we're looking at the whole motorcycle thing, but I'm a biker, so there we go.
So here, I'll put you on the spot. What are we doing for Hogfest, Curtis?
Oh, Hogfest here in Carlsbad, New Mexico was a really big event last year. We did it over 4 days, right? 4 days? 3 days? 4 days? What did we do? 4 days. 4 days. Did 4 days. It was great. We had a fun time. This year was going to be even bigger. Michelle Lujan Grisham, who is not a fan of mine, and I'm not a fan of hers, and she has made it impossible for us to do Hogfest this year, but we reached out. We talked to the Moonshine Bandits. We talked to the Lax. We've talked to all the bands that were on the bill this year. They're good to postpone it until next year. and we're calling it, we're postponing it. People were like, well, you're not really postponing it, you're just canceling it.
Exactly.
But that's not that. I'm going to tell you why that's not the case.
Yeah, okay, tell me.
Let me explain.
All right.
So if we canceled it next year, it would be a whole new show. We would do all new bands and all that stuff, but we're postponing it, and we're bringing the same show next year. It's just going to be next year. And then
right. So people, we are canceling it, and then we're going to hire the same bands for next year.
No, all the contracts stayed. They just changed the dates. Screw you, Brad. You know, this is the first time we've said it right here on the Cranked Up Live podcast. The Hogfest is going to be canceled this year. So we make it free, right? We do it free to the public. Mm-hmm. Grisham is she's just totally lost her mind. And so it's like she wakes up. I did a radio interview earlier today on a radio station. They brought me in to do an interview, and I said on there, I'm like, she wakes up, depending on what side of the bed she wakes up on in the morning, is what's happening for the next 30 days. She could wake up and had a bad night and hit the sauce, and so now we're quarantined. The next day we're not.
Curtis, is she a drinker?
She has to be a drinker, dude. Dude, I used to be a drinker. So, I made some dumbass decisions when I was on the old Jägermeister. And I got to tell you, she acts just as stupid as I was back then. And except I wasn't messing with people's livelihoods when I made a stupid decision. Mine was, I stayed up too late, or I maybe did something I shouldn't have, or what. Yeah, she's affecting everything. And that's basically what she did. We've made Hogfest free to everybody, and the only revenue streams we actually had was like the beer garden and things like that, and of course you can't have a beer garden.
Well, and they had put out info, and we're like, oh, we can still make this work. And so Curtis said something about still making it work, and then the next day they're like, oh, and no beer gardens.
Yeah. I was like, well, that's cool, man. We can still do it because we can still have a beer garden. Nope, no beer gardens. That was the
next day. Nope, no beer gardens. What'd you say yesterday? Nope, can't do that.
That was like I said, you know what? Since they won't let anybody do anything, we'll do some drive-in stuff. We'll have a drive-in. And I talked about it like a moron. I shouldn't have even said anything. I talked about it the next day. No more drive-ins.
No more drive-ins.
Yeah, it's like that soup Nazi on Seinfeld. No soup for you.
No drive-in for you.
Yeah, it was everything that I said. She's like, nope, you ain't doing it. But that one got enough people aggravated that she reversed her decision. She obviously didn't get drunk that night. She woke up the next day and said that they could have drive-ins. So we actually did our first one this past weekend, and put up the big 20-foot video screen and had a fun time. It was a lot of fun.
We only had a few technical difficulties because it was 147 degrees outside.
It was like Hades. They're like, we're waiting on Grisham to come down. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, I hate that lady. I really do. And I know she watches the stuff. Well, she may not, but somebody does, because I've heard about stuff that I've said from people up in Santa Fe.
Yeah, because tomorrow they're going to cancel podcasts and be like, their faces were too close together on the screen.
Yeah, really. They'll be like, no more podcasts for that. So, folks, anyway, man, you know what? We've had a fun time. I want to get out of here. I want to go. We're going to be back later in the week, right?
Yes, I believe so. I think we're going to start doing this on like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then a Saturday thing, and then maybe a Sunday.
No, we're not doing it that much.
Okay, not that often.
Well, I can barely get you here to do it like this, in Hawaii. That's one thing people don't realize. I'm in New Mexico. Brad's in Hawaii. We've made the radio show work for like 12 or 13 years, whatever it was, and never being in the same studio. But I got to tell you, Brad messes around a lot. And so
I don't have a script for this like we would do. I had times, and I had to have like 2 minutes and 38 seconds for this one, and then 3 minutes and 12 seconds for this spot. And I had things for it, but I'm going to start doing that. You're
going to just start.
It's going to be the same way as before. I'm even going to put music in, and you're just not going to hear it.
Oh, you're going to put music in. Are you really?
Hell no. That was a lot of work. But
tuning in, got our YouTube channel, youtube.com/crankeduplive. We haven't officially launched on everything yet. Like I said, you saw us kind of working some more bugs out, but you can catch all of this stuff on, you can catch it all on YouTube. And if you still go to crankeduplive.com, you can see all of the places to check out the audio and all of that stuff. And you know what? We appreciate you tuning in. Brad, are you ready to get out of here now?
Aloha.